Welcome to Dating and Relationship Advice.
This is Brian.
No, it's not.
Yeah, you're
Wait.
Brian. I'm Beth.
No, you're Beth and I'm Brian. No, just kidding. We are going to educate you on relationships and dating and to try to find the best relationship for yourself.
Yeah.
So this might give you some ideas, some do's and don'ts. In this episode, we're going to talk about who loves who more in a relationship. Or if it's an unequal balance, does it really matter? We'll find out. What is love? What erodes love? You had a question.
Sure.
It's, would you rather be in a relationship where the person is completely obsessed and madly in love with you and you care for them but not as much? I think that's how you said it.
Yep.
Or would you rather be in a relationship where you're obsessed with that person and completely head over heels but wonder if they don't?
Right. They're not as madly in love with you as you are with them. Like, which is worse? Because here's the thing. I think that in every relationship that there's always somebody, like no two people, at least not in my experience, love each other the same way. That there's always someone who feels that they love more and somebody who, and I don't want to, and like, look, we've both read the love languages.
Yeah.
And so the definition of love and what people feel as love depends on what that person's love language is. I completely believe that.
So what's your love language?
My love language is quality time. I like feeling like a priority. I feel I want to spend time with my partner. I want to do fun things. I want to make sure that I am, that we spend a lot of time together and that I'm a priority. And my second love language is, I would say it's equal physical touch and words of affirmation. My least favorite, like my two lowest love languages are acts of service and gifts. I don't really take a lot of stock in gifts. I would rather spend time with my partner or go someplace fun and make memories together than get like something expensive. And I definitely don't. Acts of service is probably my lowest.
Yeah.
Which is like some people's acts of service is like, look, if I took out the trash or I did the dishes, I'm showing you that I care and love you. Yeah, that's not my love language. I don't equate that with love. So like, you can take out the trash and do the dishes all you want, but if you never take me out to dinner, I'm not going to feel loved. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what are yours?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because my love language when I took that test is equally words of affirmation and physical touch, because I like to, a lot of people lie and I need proof. Right. So they both have to equally match themselves.
Well, and words of affirmation are also like, I'm proud of you. It's telling someone how much you care, how much you love them, why they're special to you. That those words of affirmation, it's not just about honesty. It's also about, making sure that the person knows verbally how much you care and how much you love them. And physical touch doesn't have to be about intimacy. It's just about, cuddling, holding hands, sitting close on the couch. It doesn't have to always, it's not about sex. And a lot of people misunderstand that. They think that physical touch is all about just sex, and it's not.
Oh no, it's like a smack on the ass,
Right, because well, the thing is okay, so some people, so the things that erode love are when you're fighting against their love language. So if you're negative and you constantly criticize the person that you're with, if their love language is words of affirmation, they will not feel like you love them because they will only hear criticism and negativity from you.
Yeah, but nobody would want to hear negative comments anyways.
Some people, it wouldn't matter as much. I mean, if somebody had, let's say somebody
Like somebody from an Italian
Somebody I know. No, somebody I
Italian
know.
family.
Somebody I
It's
know.
like, what's the matter, you, huh?
What's the matter, you? Somebody I know who I love very much is her love language is gifts. It's material things. That's how she understands and receives love. Physical touch is not something that she's not a touchy-feely. She doesn't like hugs. It's not something that, but you buy her a fancy bracelet, or you
Right.
buy a stove, or you buy something for that person. They're like, wow, this person really loves me because look at the expensive thing they bought me. They must really love me. But if you give them a hug, it just makes them feel awkward.
Right.
So it just depends on your love language. I really highly recommend that book. Dr. Henry Cloud, or no, is that Boundaries? Who wrote, is it Chapman?
Yeah, in order for her to find her love of her life, she would need somebody that that loves giving gifts.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, is that it's Gary Chapman is the author of Love Languages, and there's a quiz online that you can take that you answer a bunch of questions, and it basically tells you what your love language is.
Yeah.
And by knowing your partner's love language, you can express your love for that person once you know what their language is. But it's easier when your love languages match, because it comes more naturally to you. If you're a physically affectionate person,
Yeah.
and your partner is physical touch is their love language, it's a much easier match because you're going to naturally meet that love language. My ex-husband, his love language was acts of service, which is my lowest. So it was very difficult, and mine was quality time, and he'd never wanted to go out with me or spend time with me. So we did not meet each other's love languages and did not feel that each other loved each other, because the love languages that we had just didn't connect.
Yeah, you didn't meet each other's needs.
No. And in the beginning of a relationship, typically you meet all five, because you're doing everything you can in that beginning relationship. You're touching each other, you're sending each other, cute messages, and and you're making sure you're on your best behavior, and so whatever love language that they have, it's easily met. But once you are in a relationship for a while, you tend to default to what your love language is, and if it's not the same as your partner, that's when there's issues.
Yeah, because I never do that on dates where I put my best foot forward.
You act like a jerk?
No, I don't. I don't act like a jerk.
Like I act like an asshole just to see what they're gonna do.
No, it's like I don't go out of my way to impress them.
It's not about impressing. It's about well, and I wouldn't even say it's dating. That love languages really aren't even met through dating. It's about through a relationship.
Yeah, but I see a lot of guys that are telling their best jokes, and they only have maybe a handful of them, and then it just teeters out after a while.
Well, so here's an example, right? The beginning of a relationship. Let's say her love language is gift giving. And at the beginning of the relationship, the man is super generous. He buys her flowers. He takes her out to dinner. He buys her little trinkets and things like that, because he's trying to impress her. And if her love
Right.
language is gift giving, she's like, wow, he must really care. He must really love me. But then, as time passes, he buys less and less gifts. He shows less and less interest because he gets comfortable. And she's like, well, he must not love me anymore because he's not buying me things the way he used to.
Right.
Well, he was courting her. So when you're courting, your behavior is different than when you're in just a long-term relationship. Unless it's your natural love language. I mean, I've experienced this a lot. So
Yeah, because if that girl loves giving gifts and she starts to go out with somebody who's not a gift giver, he's going to automatically think that she's
materialistic.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So that's not a good match.
No, it's not a good match. But if you really love the person, you will try to if you understand their love language, that you will try. It's not that it's impossible. It's just much more difficult, I think.
Yeah, but it's better to match somebody that, matches your love
Yeah,
language.
I agree. It definitely is. It's much easier. It's much easier to find somebody that has that compatibility with you because you do feel more loved, just because that's their natural love language.
Yeah, and your, I guess, idea of trying when the love languages don't match, it's almost like, I think I explained this to you
Hmm.
in another way. It's almost like if you're trying to get something out of somebody, it's almost like you're in a plastic bag trying to punch your way out,
Mm.
and it's not going to work.
No.
I mean, there might be some good qualities to certain
No. Well,
people,
here's the thing. It's
but
like, look, I'm not a good gift giver. That's just a fact. I try, and sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes, like I get it right. But there's a lot of times where I'm like, I have no idea if they'll actually like this or not, and I'm just kind of shooting in the dark. And when it comes to acts of service, I hate cleaning. I hate yard work. So I don't care how much your acts of service is your love language. I don't care how much I love you. I'm never going to enjoy doing those things, and I will do it with resentment. So it's not a good match for me to be with someone who acts of service is their love language. Just not a good match.
yeah, but it's still good to find a man that knows how to cut the grass and do the normal things.
I will hire someone. I don't care. I don't care.
I won't. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so then there's a problem with, because I've had a couple relationships like this. It's like, you don't love me as much as I love you, and it's almost like either it's something that I don't show, or something that I don't do, or something.
Well, and I think love is perception. I think love. I think. I think it also it goes back to how people interpret love. If someone is jealous and obsessed, does that mean that they love you, or are they just insecure? Because I don't think so. I think that love, I mean, and this is after 40 some years of being in relationships and having time to think about all of these things. I don't think obsession is love. I think it has to do with your own insecurity and whether or not that person can make you feel worthy of love. But that's not real love. I think real love is loving someone, is accepting someone for who they are, just like looking at who they are, understanding who they are in all of their good and their bad, loving them when it's hard, loving them when it's easy, and just being there for somebody.
I don't know if that's gonna work. Like, I'm looking at it black and white, and some people can jump into relationships like, well, I own a 90-inch TV and an expensive car,
Sure.
and why don't you love me for who I am? And then I start criticizing you because you're fat and you're this and you're that, but why don't you love me?
I don't. Yeah, that's not love.
No, that's
I mean, no. But that's my point, is that people tend to think that love is like, look, love is
like oxygen.
well, love is a many splendid thing. Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love.
That's
Don't
it.
start that again. No, so I mean, okay, so I'll give you an example. My father my biological father, let me preface that, was a very awful person. He lied all the time. He was a cheater. He didn't like to work. There were a myriad of things. He was abusive, verbally, physically, and all of these things. He's not the one who loved. The one who loved was my stepmom. My stepmother, I will never forget this, and I thought she was weak, okay? So when I was 13, I sat down at the table. So my father had left my stepmother, was having an affair with this woman. His mother had just died. He was going through a midlife crisis. He had completely kind of lost his way. And he was trying to find something. I don't know what, but he was struggling. And so instead of clinging to his partner, He went outside of the relationship to find validation outside of his relationship. And he found it. He found someone that he had gone to school with, that he was obsessed with. He was obsessed with her, not in love, obsessed. He was obsessed with her. She was talented, she was smart, she was successful, and those were all the things that he was looking for. My stepmom was a stay-at-home mom. She had never gone to college. She didn't really have an education other than high school. She'd never really had a job, but she loved him. She loved him for everything that he was and everything that he wasn't. She loved him despite everything. And I remember him, like, he left us to starve, because she'd never had a job, so the only job she could get was working at the deli at Giant Eagle. And I'm starving, I'm hungry, the utilities kept getting turned off. We had either had no heat or no electric or no water, and we're sitting there, and she's eating nothing because she's starving herself to death because she thinks being skinnier is going to get him back. And I'm 13 years old, and I'm sitting across from her, and I just looked at her, and I'm like, why are you with him? Mm-hmm. Why are you with him? He treats you like garbage. I don't understand. And she looked at me and said, you don't know what true love is. And I thought, you're stupid. You're stupid. I'm 13 years old, 14 years old, 13, 14. And I'm like, you're stupid. You are stupid for waiting for this person, pining for this person who left you to starve to death so that he could find some other punta to screw around with, to find himself, because he was struggling with his mommy issues. Now, granted, he realized what he had with my stepmom. He recognized the love that she had for him, and recognized that the love and obsession that he had with this other woman was not real. And he ended up going back. He went back to his wife. They remarried again, and they were married until they died. But I can tell you that my stepmother loved him more than he loved her. He was selfish and conceited and did whatever he wanted to do, but her love for him never wavered. And I used to think that she was stupid. But I think that I look back at that and I see her and I admire her for loving someone that way, for being able to hold someone and know exactly what he's doing, knowing that he's away and with someone else, but still having this immense love for him. That, I feel, is true love. And I know so many people are going to think it is.
Yeah, but I don't think it goes both ways, though.
No, it doesn't.
In that case.
No.
Because maybe their love languages were different, and she wasn't a exact perfect match, but she was.
So I don't think.
Enough.
So here's the thing. I think that my father was a narcissist. He might have been a sociopath. And I think that he did whatever he needed to get what he needed, and that was it. Did he love her and care about her? Of course, but that's because she loved him. She had value to him because of how she felt. Did he love her in the same way? No. He did not. But I don't know. I mean, but she got what she wanted. He came back. He was with her. He was with her until he died. And that was all she wanted.
Yeah, but seeing it through his eyes, it might be 20 different other things. It's almost like maybe she left him and he just came back because she was the only one left.
No. My father could have had anybody he wanted. He was tall. He was handsome. He had other things going for him, from what I hear. And he could have had his pick. but she was the only one that was obsessed with him.
Because I've been in some relationships where a couple of people that I remember were obsessed with me, and it wasn't really good. So before I tell you the stories, there's a lot of factors for at least for me to determine if I love somebody.
Okay.
You have to have emotional compatibility. You have to have intellectual compatibility. You have to have physical compatibility. And, of course, the love languages do help.
Sure.
That they match. And then there's a whole slew of other things. You know, these two ladies that I'm remembering, there was one who was actually a lawyer. And I would consider she was obsessed with me, because after she broke up with me, she dated somebody else. And the guy claimed that he was an MMA fighter and he wanted to kick my ass and everything. And you know, I heard this over my voicemail because she kept on calling me, and I heard him in the background. It's like, why are you bothering with him? I heard him say.
Sure.
And I knew what his name was because he's now a customer of mine. I don't know if he still works at the company.
Sure.
But, I don't know, he's just a little guy. And it was just, being obsessed with somebody is just, it's almost like they don't attract. It's almost like, what's the other word for it? It's almost like opposites. Because for me, opposites don't attract. And it becomes an opposite personality trait, or it almost turns you ugly. I don't know if you understand that. It's almost like going up to a really cute guy, and he looks like a football player. He's got this nice body. He's got this nice face, clean-cut guy. And all of a sudden, he opens up his mouth and says something stupid.
Ugh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I can understand. I mean, so that that actually happened to me. So I was in high school and I was in accounting class and I was sitting behind. His name was Eric, and he was
so attractive.
He
right?
was so beautiful.
Yeah,
now,
see?
and he was blonde, which I'm not normally attracted to, but he was very fit, broad-shouldered, very muscular, you know, beautiful face, gorgeous. He was just gorgeous. And I was normally shy. Like, I'm not the kind of person that would have approached someone and said, like, hey, baby, you know, kind of thing. So I decided to write him a note. I took a chance, and I wanted to know if he had a girlfriend. So I wrote a note that said, do you have a significant other? And I, you know, folded it up and I passed it to him. And he was taking a really long time to read it, which I was sort of like, what is going on? Like, why is he making it this very long? And he's
like, what are these words?
Yeah, he turned around and handed me the note back and goes, I don't know what this means. And my attraction to him immediately dissipated. Like, I was no longer attracted to him because I'm like... And so I look at Tamra, who is sitting next to us, and I was like, is he slow? And she starts laughing. She's like, no. But he wasn't on my level intellectually. And so I couldn't be attracted to someone who wasn't on the same level as me in terms of... Like, I could find somebody attractive,
right?
But if they're not on the same level as me, it's not going to work.
See, another friend of mine, you know, he's a jock, he's a football player, and he just works out constantly.
Sure.
And he goes, the women that are stupider, the better. He likes those kind of women.
Well, it makes him feel like a big man. That's why.
Probably.
Right. It stokes his ego.
Yeah.
You know, because he feels smart.
Mm-hmm.
But people like you and I need somebody that meets on that intellectual level. But I am curious how you felt about, like, I guess I'm surprised that you didn't revel in the fact that someone was obsessed with you. Like, that didn't make you feel loved, it didn't make you feel wanted. I'm confused by that.
Well, see, if that was equally matched, it would be. But there was some things that that happened that I can't accept. It's like this young lady actually beat my little son.
Right.
She drowned my son, even though he didn't know how to swim. He was like 3 years old. And there was a bunch of other things that I don't know. I mean, she forged my name on a credit card without my knowledge. And then 3 months later, I found out, okay, $8,000 in debt. Where's this bill coming from?
Yeah.
And she was a lawyer.
Well, and right, and that's why I guess I was surprised, because I know from her perspective, she was successful. She felt that you lied, that you didn't love your son, that, that
Yeah, I
you,
didn't love my son. Where did that come from?
that she said, you don't even love Connor, you piece of shit, is what she said. So I just think that,
No, see, I only had one son at the time.
right, Connor.
Yeah.
Right. And she, from her perspective, for some reason, she felt like you didn't love him, which I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's interesting the perspective of, like, someone being obsessed with you when they tend to say things that make it sound like they hate you. It doesn't make any sense.
No, see, I'm thinking, when I cut ties and I separated from her, at that point she became obsessed. She wanted me back. And she did whatever it took to get me back. I mean, I remember one time where I usually keep my door open because I don't care if people break in. But at that point, I was in the middle of flipping houses. So I just bought a different house.
Yeah.
Away from that relationship.
Sure.
And she found out where I lived.
Sure.
I didn't tell her anything because she has her lawyer database,
Right.
which is Lexis,
Well,
the Lexis database, and it's public record.
It's public record. If you can find out
But
anybody...
she went out of her way to find out where I lived instead of moved on.
Well,
and she did move on.
I did the same thing. I found out that the address that you said you were at was Christine's address and it wasn't yours. So, yeah, I can understand that. I can understand her perspective.
Well, yeah, because we lived with each other at one point, and then
Right.
I moved on and moved somewhere else.
Right.
So just like I did with this one, and all of a sudden her car drives up in my driveway, and I'm upstairs, and I'm like, "What is she doing here?" She knocks on my door, and I was pretty much silent, and then she walks in. She goes, "I'm walking downstairs," and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And she goes, "Well, I'll be upstairs. I'm gonna get naked." And then she was upstairs getting naked, and I'm like, "I think I need you to leave." And she was up there for a while because she had a conversation with her ex-husband, and she got this idea from her ex-husband, where her ex-husband told her that any man would fuck somebody naked, doesn't matter who they are.
Sure.
But it wasn't me.
Well, no, you were probably seeing somebody else at the time.
No, I wasn't seeing anybody else. I didn't want somebody who would hit my son on purpose, would steal from me, and I don't want a relationship with that kind of person. That doesn't make my that doesn't give me a stiffy.
No.
That's not how I work.
No.
But maybe most men would just go do that, and
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, not in my opinion. I mean, from what look, my experiences in dealing with men actually do have, I mean, surprisingly, actually have feelings. And they have trauma from their past relationships too.
yeah.
And so, I think it goes both ways. I really do. In terms of love. But in terms of obsession and, and love, I don't think obsession is love. No. I think obsession is, just you're getting your needs met by this person and you're getting validation from this person. But true love has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them. It has to do with what you feel about them. Do you want their happiness? Do you care about them? Do you want to know what's going on with them? Are you empathetic? Do you actually care? Or is it just how they make you feel? Is it just like, well, this person makes me feel great about myself?
Yeah, if it's
Then that's not love.
Right.
That's you being insecure and you using someone to make yourself feel better. Rather than going like, I really love this person because XYZ, and I would do whatever was necessary to make sure that they were happy. I don't want to cause this
Yep.
person pain. If you do things that causes someone else pain, but you don't care because you're getting your needs validated, that's also not love, in
No.
my opinion.
Yeah, it's got to go both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to make them smile and make them happy and surprise them with gifts, if you're
Well, if you're a gift
giver,
giver, or
or
if they love gifts, like don't be like. I think that's the other mistake that that happens is like you're a gift giver, and so you're like, well, I'm gonna show them I love them by giving gifts, but their love language is not gifts. That doesn't mean anything. If their love language is quality time or physical affection or words of affirmation, those are the things that they want to receive in order to feel love. And so you have to be aware of what that is and then do those things. Because what ends up happening is that you try to show someone that you love them in the wrong love language, and then you feel resentful
Yep.
when they don't appreciate your efforts. That happens a lot.
Yeah, so I think the rule is to find somebody that matches
It's easier.
in a lot of different ways.
It's definitely easier.
Yep.
It's definitely easier.
If you're both gift givers, that would be exciting.
Yeah.
Because you both love
so,
gifts.
So, out of curiosity, what if someone is doing something that does erode love? And they communicate that to you and they say, look, this doesn't make me feel special. This doesn't make me feel loved. Then what do you do in that instance?
You have that conversation.
Yeah, but what do? You have the conversation and they say, this makes me feel not loved. This makes me feel insecure. This makes me feel like you don't love me. What do you do about that?
Well, then ask them, what would you prefer? I mean, what would you like me to do instead? Maybe I'm misunderstanding, or maybe I'm going about this or I need to go about this in a different way. I need a different approach. Because a lot of people, it's not normal for them to do certain things. Because maybe they grew up in, it's like my mother. My mother's a gift giver.
Sure.
And she's not a hugger. She's somewhat of a kisser, but that's when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. But her love language is giving gifts, and
Sure.
that's not what I need.
Sure.
So it's almost like, how do you communicate with somebody that's opposite of you, but it's part of your family anyways?
Right. And and everybody can see, look, my ex-husband, he would always do the dishes. He did the laundry. He folded all the clothes. He always made the landscaping impeccable, and he was always mowing the lawn. But all of that time that he spent doing all those chores, I felt was taking away from the quality time that we could have spent together actually being together. And so he thought he was doing something great, and I felt like it was, and I communicated that and said, I wish you would just spend time with me rather than spending, 3 hours mowing the lawn on a Saturday. I would rather just us be able to spend time together.
Right. It almost sounds like you grew into the, I need time.
Right.
With that person. And you became resentful of the gift giver.
Yeah, the acts of service.
Right.
Because it didn't matter as much to me. And he had social anxiety, and so for him going out and going on a date night was actually kind of torture, because he felt like he was put on display and had to act a certain way, and it was not in his comfort zone, and so he was unable to give me the things that I needed to feel loved, and so it wasn't a good mix.
Yeah, because the personalities didn't sound like they matched.
No.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to look for in a partner.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find all the good details
Right.
of you in somebody else.
Right. But I think the one thing, and I've been working on this over the last year, is insecurity. If somebody is insecure with themselves and they look for validation from other people, it tends to be toxic to any kind of relationship. If you don't feel secure within yourself and know that you're worthy of love and know your value, you're constantly looking for that validation from other people. And it can be very destructive to a relationship, because it manifests itself in jealousy and game playing and, ways to feel more secure rather than just being open and honest with how you feel. I think that's probably one of the things that people struggle with is they look for people to fulfill their needs rather than looking within them inside themselves and saying like I'm enough.
Right. And yeah, that's a good approach. But I've also found out that it's good to ask a lot of questions, because if you have similar pasts,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe you both grew up in a rich family, or maybe you both grew up in a poor family, something like that, you can actually relate and come together. Because I believe the more things that you have in common or commonality, the more you come together.
Well, it's definitely easier for understanding, but I think that what my point is that people that have suffered trauma, the way that you have, the way that I have, manifests itself into very unhealthy types of relationships because you are expecting things from your partner to make you feel like you're worthy of love, and when those needs are not getting met you feel like you're worthless, and so you go outside of the relationship to try to find those feelings of validation in other people, and that's actually very detrimental to the relationship, even though it feels good at the time, you know. So it's just, I think I will say that the things that have helped me is understanding my worth as an individual outside of a relationship. It's not living in the past and it's not living in the future. It's accepting things as they are right now. I read a book called, is it Awakening the Buddha Within? That was a really good book. And Radical Acceptance. And those were two books that really helped me in my journey, not expecting other people to fulfill my needs. Because what would end up happening was I would get in very destructive relationships,
Mm-hmm.
because simultaneously I would want to feel safe and I would want to feel validation from the person I was with. So instead of saying like, wait a minute, why am I expecting another imperfect person to make me feel worth something? Why can't I just find that within myself? Why am I expecting this person to make me feel loved and make me feel worth something? And if they're not showing me that, I shouldn't spiral into a depression because I know who I am and I know what I'm worth. And worth doesn't mean financial success. It just means that you're a human being deserving of love and compassion and respect.
Yeah.
If you're not a piece of crap, you should expect those things. you know So, and it's taken me a long time to see that, and one of my best friends kind of showed me that because they struggled themselves for a very long time with the things that they were dealing with and had been in very unhealthy relationships as well, and had to take time away to learn how to exist and accept themselves for who they were and recognize the emotions they were feeling and not act out in unhealthy ways that were to the detriment of the people that they really loved.
Yeah. But, even if you're healthy and you're good with yourself and you're happy for who you are, you still want to find somebody that compliments you, that, somebody that matches you, that doesn't bring you down.
No, of course. Nobody should be with somebody that is negative and that is telling you awful things about yourself. If you have somebody that is cutting you down and telling you all the things that are wrong with you and what you shouldn't be doing, that's not somebody that you want to be with. You want somebody to be with somebody that builds you up and tells you tells you the positive things about yourself. But I don't think you should cling to someone like, I think it's unhealthy to cling to someone to feel worthy of love rather than being able to stand on your own 2 feet and say, like, I'm worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of respect.
Yeah, my whole thing is I don't want to settle.
No. I mean, look, I do feel that people settle in some instances. Nobody's perfect. That's the thing. You're always going to have to accept someone for whatever, like, nobody's perfect. So I think you just have to find as close as you can to the things that match what you need, but you should not rely on that person solely for your needs to get met, because you will always be disappointed and you'll always be feeling insecure and you'll always be testing the relationship because you're never sure, does this person really love me? Because if you feel unworthy of love, you're constantly going to be testing the relationship to feel secure.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about being perfect or not perfect. It's about, because if you find that love, if you find that match, if you find that list of 100 things that we have in common, a lot of those negative things just go away and it doesn't matter anymore. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if you have hairy ears or a hairy nose,
Well,
because you have all these other things that you can have fun with.
But here's the problem. You can have 100 things in common with someone and you can really love someone, but if you're insecure as a person, you're going to be searching for validation in any way that you can find it.
Yeah, it's going to be destructive to the relationship.
Even in incredibly unhealthy and destructive ways.
Yeah.
And so you could have somebody that is your perfect match, but you will do things to erode the relationship and destroy it because you can't be secure in what you have. And it's a really difficult thing to do, to feel secure. I've searched my whole life for safety and security, and every time I've picked safety and security over believing in myself, it has always ended in disaster. I picked my ex-husband because I felt that I was his first girlfriend, and I knew he would never cheat on me, he would never lie to me, because he was so insecure that he would never go outside of our relationship because he could barely look at a woman, let alone talk to one. And so I was like, well, that's good for me. No, no, because I wasn't getting a lot of my needs met in that relationship. And so I ended up, unfortunately, looking outside of my relationship to get the needs, physically and emotionally that I needed met outside of my relationship. If I would have picked somebody that actually met my needs, and if I would have been secure in myself and understanding what I needed and what I was worth, I never would have gotten married. I never would have put myself in that position. I never would have had an affair. It would have been totally different, but I was incredibly insecure. And so I put myself in positions to fail.
Yeah, because I look at that relationship that you described as like you two were opposites in a lot of ways. Like you're a people person and he isn't, so that's a big opposite.
Right. Well, no, and in pretty much every relationship you've ever described to me, that any long-term relationship that you've ever been that you've described to me, you didn't fit with the people that you were with either. No. So you didn't find your wife attractive or compatible physically that way, but you married her, and then the next relationship you got into was someone who was super negative. I mean, not at the beginning, but they seemed pretty, open and fun and, gregarious, but they didn't like to be touched. So, I mean, people settle for things because they don't feel like they're worth anything more. But,
well, a lot of times you get into that rut where you got so far into that relationship, you're like, well, I'm already here. I don't want to work on trying to build up another one, and I'll see if this works. And a lot of times it just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, the longest relationship I was ever in was with my ex-husband. We were together for 11 years. Before that, the longest relation I had been in was 4, and that person I was also engaged to. And then I think the second relationship and that was even off and on, but it was, if I was with someone that I was not compatible with, I wouldn't stay in it. I mean, the biggest reason why I ended up staying with my husband was because it was the safest place I found. He was the only person that I ever felt that I could have children with because he wanted a family so desperately. And most men I found to be liars and players and didn't actually care about anything but themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't like that, though. They're out there. You just have to find them.
Not that I found.
Oh, I found quite a few. I mean, I have a lot of friends, at least a lot of guy friends that aren't really players, and
they're in long-term committed relationships?
Yeah.
Right. So they're taken.
Yeah.
Right. So there aren't any left, is my point.
No, there still could be. I mean, my cousin's, he never married. And he's a nice guy.
The agoraphobic? Right. Great. Perfect. Yeah.
No, he has a good head on his shoulder. He's
right.
Smart.
But for someone who has a love language of quality time, probably not the best partner.
No. No, that's why, yeah.
Unless you're indoorsy.
No, he can be outdoorsy. He just
not around other people.
No, he's trying to fix himself. That's why he's not in a relationship.
Gotcha. Well, no, that's good.
Because he was outgoing.
Yeah.
He was a jokester. He was a lot of fun. He's a really smart guy. He's a good businessman. He's got everything for him.
Well, and that's the thing. And look, I totally understand that people that if you have a love language such as physical touch, it is very difficult to be alone, to crave that human touch, that physical interaction. I'm not talking about sex. I'm just talking about having that person to snuggle with and cuddle with and hold hands and be close to. You feel like you're starving when you don't have that. Unfortunately, people like that put themselves in positions to be in very unhealthy situations because they're so desperate to find someone that will fit that. And I totally get that. I'm not saying that I'm exempt from that.
Yeah. Yeah, they wind up settling because they get maybe one of their needs or two or three.
Most people settle. Every single couple that I know of has settled in some way. I do not know of a perfect couple. The closest I ever got was my grandparents. And but again, it was not that they were perfect. It was that they loved each other so much that they accepted each other for their flaws. My grandpa was an attractive ladies' man. My mother was a jealous, hot-headed Southern belle. But at the end of the day, they loved each other. My grandfather, for all his flirty ways, loved my grandmother. He never would have done anything to hurt her. She was jealous and probably slightly insecure, and acted out in ways that were probably unhealthy. But at the end of the day, she died in his arms. She fell asleep. When she was in her 60s, she had cancer, and he was holding her when she died. And he would never love anyone the way that he loved my grandmother. And it's not to say their relationship was perfect. It wasn't. But the passion that they had for each other was undeniable. And that was what I always wanted. I always wanted that. But it wasn't. Look, my grandfather was an alcoholic. I mean, for the majority of their marriage. He was, my grandmother was hot-headed. She probably was abusive, at least to her older son. But they accepted each other and they loved each other unconditionally, despite everything. Understanding each other's weaknesses and flaws, it didn't stop them from loving each other.
So it doesn't matter who loves who more?
No. I think the thing that it doesn't matter who loves more. What matters is how they treat each other and what they do. If you have a partner who feels like they love more and they're doing things out of insecurity to feel secure that are detrimental to the relationship, that can be destructive. It can push the other person away. And the person who loves that person but isn't infatuated needs to understand and show that person the love that they need. But it is the responsibility of the person who is insecure to understand that they are worthy of love and not to expect that person to make them feel worthy, because that cannot be anybody's responsibility but their own. And I've had to learn that the hard way. You know, you expect to feel worth from someone, you expect to get your validation from someone, and they don't meet that, you feel like you're going to die. You feel this sick feeling like I'm not worth anything because this person doesn't love me. But that's not true. And they probably do love you. It's just you have to work through your own issues and address the issues that are making you feel like you're not worthy of love. You know, because that's really what it comes down to. You know?
Yeah, because if your background issues don't match, you're not going to relate. Or you're not going to have empathy or sympathy with the other person.
No, and it's not even, right, no, exactly. There's definitely, I think that there's a good thing about being on the same page in terms of common experience.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like if you feel insecure and you're relying on your relationship to save you, you will be disappointed because you have to do that on your own. You have to accept who you are for yourself. Otherwise, you will destroy the relationship that you're in through destructive behaviors because you're constantly in that need for validation. Rather than being able to stop. Look, I had this happen to me just the other day where I thought, oh my God, like, I'm not worthy. Like, the person that I care about is spending all of their time talking to someone else. That must mean that I'm not worth anything. But I had to stop myself and go, you know what? That's not true. That's not true. I am worthy. I'm successful. I'm attractive. I'm worthy of love. If they wanted to be with someone else, they would go be with someone else. They choose to be with me, and that is all I need to know. Whatever they're getting out of this relationship or conversation with this other person has nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter.
Well, what makes you not think about, is this guy cheating on me? Is he talking to this other girl? Or
Look,
is he...
It will come out. It will come out eventually. No lie can be hidden forever.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that's going on, it will surface eventually. I believe that. Look, if you don't want to be with someone, don't be with them. Period. Like, if you have the opportunity to go be with somebody else and that person would make you happy, go. Go. I mean, nothing's stopping you. I mean, so if a person is choosing to be with you, that should be validation enough. You shouldn't have to constantly test the relationship to make sure that it's real. And if you do, you have to question yourself.
Yeah, that tends to push people away if you're
it does.
testing.
If you're constantly testing, people will deal with it for a certain period of time, especially if there's a pattern of behavior. But it's a huge turnoff. It's a huge turnoff to constantly be tested.
Yeah.
You know, if you're telling someone that you love them and you feel like you're showing them, and they constantly question it, the passion and romance and good feeling will go away because they're just going to constantly be annoyed by constantly being questioned. You know? So it's just better to just, the thing that I've found to be so helpful to me is really that Buddhist philosophy of being in the moment. If you are depressed, you are thinking about the past and you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future and you're too worried about the future and you are not able to enjoy the wonderful moment that you have right in front of you because you're too focused on one or the other. You're either living in the past and depressed, you know, and angry, or you're focused on the future and you're worried and you're anxious and you're not able to actually enjoy the moment that you're in right now. You know? And I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult because everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to feel safe and secure. But the problem is that the things that we do to feel safe and secure are destructive. They're not actually helping the relationship at all.
Well, yeah, if you're unhealthy to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have healthy coping mechanisms, it's not going to be, and nobody is responsible for that but you. Nobody is responsible for that for you. You know, and it's like, and if you're leaning into unhealthy relationship patterns and you're leaning into things that are destructive to the relationship, and then you're like, I don't understand why it didn't work out. Then you need to accept responsibility for your part, you know? And a lot of people don't. They just blame the other person.
Yep. Or some people don't know what their part is.
No. Some people are just flying blind. But if you want to be happy, if you want to be in love, know what your love language is. Know what your partner's love language is. Recognize your own insecurities and work through them on your own. And do not expect your partner to fix you. Do not expect your partner to validate you or to make you feel secure as a human being.
Oh my God.
That's not their responsibility.
I know. That reminds me of a girl I knew. Elizabeth. She was a fixer. She likes to hop in relationships, and she's attracted to guys that she can fix.
Right. And why does she do that?
Because she's got low self-worth.
Right. Low self-worth. So she likes to be able to help other people because that's what makes her feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
So she has no intention with any of these people, but she aligns themselves with her and pretends to be a fixer because that makes her feel good.
And she's hoping to mold them into what
Right.
she wants, and that's not going to work.
Instead of focusing on herself and recognizing her own issues and her own insecurity and her own vulnerability, she pours herself into other people's lives to try to help them because it's the only way she feels worth anything.
And she winds up destroying
Right.
it anyways.
Exactly. So it's just not a healthy thing to do.
No.
It's just not a healthy thing to do. And you end up losing more friends than you gain. And then you attract people that are parasites to you, that just want to suck the life out of you and really don't care about you at all.
Nope.
So it's just
a vicious cycle.
It is. So again, know yourself, know your partner, know your love language, know their love language, and recognize your own insecurities and what they are, and do not expect your partner to be your savior or to save you. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and stare yourself in the mirror and say, I am worthy of love, I am worthy of respect, and if someone is not treating you with love or respect, and they're doing things that are destructive to the relationship, you need to let that go and find someone that actually fits.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, and somebody who matches you, who can understand your past, who can relate, and you can pick each other up.
Right.
You can grow in a healthy relationship.
Right. Somebody positive, somebody that cares about you, somebody that asks about your day, somebody that, cares about you outside of themselves and what you give to them. That's really what it comes down to.
That is.
Does this person add to your life, or do they detract from it?
Yeah, they should benefit you as opposed to bring you down. Right.
Exactly. But at the same time, if they're struggling, you should care enough outside of yourself to want to be there for them. If you don't, then you really need to question how you feel.
Yeah, but as long as certain things are in place that you match.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's certain people that are just downers to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they focus too much on a certain thing, or...
Well, right. I mean, think about the people that you talk to. Do they ask you about you? Do they want to actually spend time with you? Do they care about you at all? Or do they just want you to use you as a platform to talk about their own problems?
See, we can backtrack a little bit, and let's say we're going on date sites.
Mm-hmm.
And from my experience, I ask a lot of questions, and they don't ask any.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, they're looking.
how am I supposed to?
Well, right.
It's like
So-
they don't care about me. They don't care about asking questions.
So
but
what was the difference between you and me? When I met you, did I ask you questions?
yeah, you asked a
Right.
lot of questions.
Because I cared about you. I wasn't there for you to just fulfill what I needed.
Yeah, but a lot of the women, see, I got the answers and why they expected the man to ask a lot of questions.
Well, they probably have like 150,000 people asking them the same shit.
Right. Well, those specific people wanted the man to take charge. They wanted to. There's a way that they worded it. They wanted
Dominant?
No, they wanted the man to be the man.
That doesn't have anything to do about caring with another person.
Well, it's not the right way of showing it to me.
No. I mean,
But the majority of the women just, I don't know, they want.
some people sign up for dating sites because they want validation. And that's all they want. They want to know that they're hot. They want to know that they're desirable. But when it comes to really having a relationship with someone, that's not really what they're looking for. They just want to know that they've still got it, you know? And there are people that go out there that still do that, you know?
Not the ones that I came across. It's almost like when I talk to some of these women, all the women describe some of the men that they came across as all the men do is talk about themselves. Talk about, what kind of car that they drive, or how much money they make, or this and that and the other thing. And then I turn it around and I ask them about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The typical questions like, what do you do for a living? Let's see if we have something in common.
Sure.
Do you have any hobbies? Do you dress up in costumes during Halloween? Do you?
Sure.
I mean, I keep on going on and on and on.
Right. And do they ask the same questions of you?
No, they don't. They don't ask any questions because
So-
they expect the man to be the leader.
No, they expect it to be all about them. That's what they expect. It's not about you. They don't want to know you. They don't care about you.
No,
They're not interested in you. They want someone to validate who they are. They want someone to be interested in them, but they're not willing to reciprocate. And that's not somebody that you want to be with. You want to be with someone that actually cares about what you have going on, what you do day to day, what you're interested in, that it's a mutual respect. That's my point. It's like if a man is all about themselves, as a woman is all about themselves, they're not actually looking for a relationship. They're looking for validation, period.
I don't know about that because you have to look at the whole process as a whole. It's almost like as a woman, you get like a lot of dick pics, you get a lot of jerks, you get a lot of, hey, you want to have sex? We'll meet the very first second that we start talking.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, I enter into the picture and I show interest.
Sure.
How would you act? It's like,
well, that's not the point. If a woman that I get what you're saying, but at the same time, how does that make you feel? If they don't ask you any questions about yourself, and they don't ask you about anything about yourself, how does that make you feel?
that doesn't make me feel good. But the expectation on the site is they expect me to be like everybody else that's on there.
I don't
and
have
I'm
that.
not.
I never had that expectation.
A lot of them do that I came across.
Well, that's why you're not with them.
No.
Right.
Right.
I mean, so.
Yeah, that's why you have these certain processes and guidelines and find the person that matches you.
Right.
And we'll leave you with that thought. Until next time. Bye.